Power Rangers Battle for the Grid is a crazy game. It's filled with insane assists, touch of deaths, and huge Megazords just shaking up your entire screen. For this guide, however, we're going to start with a more simple, straightforward character, Jason Lee Scott, the Red Ranger. Red's a pretty good character to start you off, because he's pretty straightforward, but he's also very rewarding in the right hands. He's a pretty good character to teach you most of the basic mechanics of the game and how to operate the neutral with them. This guide will give you a basic understanding of Red's tools and how you should apply them in your matches. Red is a character who definitely feels a lot more simple than most characters. I mean, Jen has crazy air dash mix-ups, Dog's got shadow canceling, Adam has bullshit, and in a way, Red is kinda simple. But if we dive deep down, we could definitely still see a great amount of uses and strengths for this character. For the most part, this guide will simply delve more into the basics and how to apply them. But rest assured, we will go into some tools Red has that most scholars would definitely consider bullshit. Red's toolkit is a bit standard when you look at it. You've got a standard approach option, a good target combo, a launcher, a projectile, and even a parry. And while it doesn't go to the insane levels that other characters' movesets do, it also makes him a good character to get familiar with and learn. But even with a simple moveset, you can still pull off some good, powerful, and rewarding combos with this character. Grid uses a naming scheme known as numpad notation when it comes to denoting their moves, where directions are displayed via a number. For example, a neutral stance would be denoted with the number 5. This image should thoroughly sum this up. L, M, H, and S describe which buttons you press, L being the character's light attack, M being their medium, H being their heavy, and S being their special. Without further ado, let's get into Red's moveset. 5L is Red's fastest standing option. This in theory makes it a decent approach option. Like all other standing attacks, this leads into a target combo if you mash it up to 3 times. This target combo is mostly useless however, as there are many better things you can lead off of a 5L, such as 5M or 5H. Unfortunately for 5L, there's a far better approach option than it, its crouching counterpart. However, 5L has a very important use for Red, which is its ability to reset opponents. We'll go more into detail about this later, but to give a very brief rundown, a jab reset spins an aerial opponent out of a combo regardless of the juggle limit, letting you get a reset on the opponent. A very glaring flaw with this move is that it moves Red forward. This doesn't sound bad, in fact, it probably sounds really good giving him more range, but this actually screws Red's combos if they're not in the corner. Red will literally pass behind the opponent, not hitting them at all. 5M is a kick that has decent speed as well as decent combo ability in the corner. This is actually Red's only standing normal that has advantage on block. Red's 5M also leads into a target combo and it is completely useless. It can't even cancel into anything other than super, except for EX. In the corner, you can actually chain this move multiple times on an airborne opponent. In fact, its end lag is so non-existent that you can do a light after you hit them with a medium if they're in the air in the corner. This move also suffers the same fate as 5L. Thank you, Emily. Arguably, Red's best standing normal. It has the same exact startup as 5M while also doing more damage and leading into better options. 5H also leads into Red's only useful target combo. It combos into itself 3 times, 2 times if caught in the air. The magic of this target combo is the special state it puts the opponent in, ground bounce. Ground bounce is a state that bounces an opponent off the ground. Obvious? Yeah, but it's how it's used that makes it important. Ground bounce ignores juggle limit and lets you extend your combo. It's the reason 5HH combos into itself. After one ground bounce, any other move that would result in a ground bounce causes hard knockdown instead. The reason you can get 3 target combos if the opponent is grounded is because when on the ground it doesn't bounce them from the air. It might sound obvious, but I felt like it needed to be included. 5H can link into a multitude of important moves, most notably for combos his launcher and 6S. However, even with its strengths, being strong and able to be comboed out of, it does have one glaring weakness. It's really punishable, and I mean really punishable, especially the second hit. If your opponent knows this, they will most likely try to punish you quickly. You can bait this out and EX after a block 5H. This however requires meter, and if you do it too frequently, you will be punished for it since EX is really unsafe on block as well. If you want to go balls deep, you can super after the EX, but that costs 3 bars, so... Red's 2L might arguably be his best move, and it's definitely something he needs. Coming out frame 3, this quick and spammable low gives Red a powerful tool. It could be comboed into his 5H to get a sizable combo. Its speed, as well as being a low, makes this his best approach option. I'll discuss this more later, but having a saved and spammable frame 3 low gives him strong pressure to utilize. A standard leg sweep. In terms of being a low, it's much slower and slightly more punishable, only for a bit more damage. Its only real benefit in comparison to 2L in terms of being a low is its range and knockdown quality to get opponents into the air, the latter of which Red has better options for anyway. It is pretty decent in combos however, doing slightly more than 5M, and also not adding as much to the Jojo limit. It also works on non-corner combos in ways 5M doesn't. To be honest, Red's 2H is actually the reason I picked him up initially. It looks super cool and has some neat qualities. 2H is Red's launcher. This launcher, like most if not all launchers, double as an anti-air. All anti-airs in Grid have 2 things in common: air invincibility and being air unblockable. Red's launcher is also jump cancelable, which is the primary source for his air combos. This makes it a rather valuable extension to his combos, resulting in expanded and more powerful combos. Red's 2H also has an OTG state, meaning it hits grounded opponents. While I initially remember seeing this as super cool, you don't actually tend to use it much seeing as this OTG is very slow. Red only gets this OTG off of assist setups, and Red doesn't get a lot of use out of a slow OTG anyway. This move does have its fair share of flaws. Despite being a launcher, it doesn't actually launch any opponents if they're grounded. This isn't a terrible issue, as Red has good options to knock opponents off their feet, but you definitely need to keep this in mind. 2H also really only hits in front of Red since he angles his sword forward. This makes it less reliable compared to other anti-airs that hit behind him, but it also doesn't make it bad. It's just something you have to look out for. Jail could honestly be argued to be Red's most useless move. You can definitely use it in blaster loops, but in any other case, you just want to use jumping medium. JM does everything JL does but better. It has cross-up potential, air combo ability, and is also probably his best air-to-air aerial. JH is probably Red's best landing aerial. It has good damage and hit stun, which leads to some high damage combos if you start with it. You should definitely capitalize on it as it's one of Red's only overheads. If used on an airborne opponent, JH will cause a ground bounce. Unlike Red's 5H target combo, this neuters his combo ability, due to losing the ability to use that target combo's ground bounce. And if it's already been used, it becomes a combo ender, and not a particularly good one. "5S", Red's best move. In reality, this move is really bad. This game has other counters, but this one is so slow. It's really punishable in every shape and form, and does not work on projectiles at all. The counter frames don't even activate until after frame 29 of the move. Avoid it at all costs unless you're going for a stylish read. 6S is Red's main OTG tool. You can use it 3 times in a row and it leads into super. This is best to use at the very end of a combo before a super, unless you intend to use EX instead. This is also the only move that can follow up off of a grab. although you can't do much after a grab without super or assist. This move also does a great job of pushing the opponent into the corner with the correct timing. This is also the only move that can actually follow up super. 4S is Red's projectile and zoning tool. It's a back roll into when to choose shots depending on how many times you press it, one high and one low. You can mix up the height as well as cancel it into the second hit of the 6S. This gives him a good zoning tool and can give some really strong pressure when matched with assists. These projectiles are very slow, so they do an incredible job at keeping opponents out as well as putting the match into your control. Red's projectiles actually have a very surprisingly strong durability, beating out most projectiles in one shot. You can actually get a decent damaging combo off of this, however, you probably don't want to gamble on this since you have other things to look for when using Red's 4S. Red's JS is one of his stronger tools. It can lock down aerial opponents and is great for comboing in the air. With the right timing, you can use this move to do some very powerful blaster loops in the corner. These are very strong, however they will take a lot of time to learn. Both of Red's grabs function very similarly, with the only move you can combo out of both being 6S. This kinda makes Red's grabs pretty useless when compared to other characters' grabs. However, if you're willing to spend the meter for super or have an assist, they can be very powerful. Swap Strike is a universal move held by every character. Unfortunately, despite this, Red's is terrible. While most characters have good routes into their Swap Strikes, as well as theirs having strong vertical range, Red's is a stab which whiffs a lot. It can still OTG, but you probably aren't going to get too many uses out of that quality with Red. Red's EX is a decently strong move. This move can be used towards the end of a combo to deal good damage. The only thing you can combo out of this is super, so that's why you're probably only going to use this if the opponent is low enough to be killed by it, or if you have 3 bars to cancel into super. Red's super does a sizable amount of damage and leads into a wall bounce. If a wall bounce has been used, it will instead result in a hard knockdown. The only move you can combo out of this is 6S. Something integral that makes Red stand out in comparison to other fighting games is its use of assists. As a 3v3 tag game, you can do some crazy shit with assists, and one of Red's greatest boons is his assist. Assists can be used in many different ways, which include, but are not limited to, crossing up and sandwiching the opponent, extending combos, ramping up pressure, and making whiffed incomings or combos safe. Any way you slice it, assists are an integral part to playing Grid, and Red's assist has some very useful assets. It is very quick, it crosses behind the opponent, and it OTGs. With OTG, it is very possible to extend a combo that would have ended without it. However, its most useful asset is its innate ability to cross up. When Red goes behind the opponent, by tagging out, you can create an immediate cross-up. This is a good way to open up opponents, which is very strong, especially for Red, since he has a difficult time of opening up opponents on his own. When you are behind them, you can simply attack, or go for a low, or grab in case they expect the cross-up. Red isn't extremely specific when it comes to making a team around him, but he does need things from assists, such as ways to exert pressure and ways to extend his combos. One assist you should think about is one that can extend his combos after a triple slice. There are a multitude of assists who can do it, just make sure not to spam it, so when you do get a grab, you aren't doing next to no damage. Red's pressure is a bit lacking, due to him not having a good overhead. You can use assists to help Red get in, but always keep one around since Red, no matter how good you are, cannot solo kill. Keep an assist around to better ensure your ability to deal damage off of any head. Assists in a Red combo is very important due to his lack of kill power. Red is a pretty standard character when it comes to strategy. While lacking in kill potential and mix-up potential, Red has a pretty straightforward game plan. Red's 4S and JS can box in players and are good tools to keep your opponents on their toes. Red's best placement on your team, however, is probably anywhere but point to maximize his powerful assist. When you are using Red though, he could build some decent meter with his blaster. Red's got decently fast options when approaching, which include his 5H, but more importantly, his 2L. 5H is a good combo starter to go with if you're confident. Just know if your opponent blocks, you're really punishable, unless you're willing to burn the meter and EX a punishing opponent, and pray they don't read that as well. 5H is much stronger as a punish option on whiff combos or moves with heavy end lag. However, you can go for its quicker and safer 2L, which comes out frame 3 and is a very spammable low. This should be your go-to when approaching, and use your assist to help get in. And remember, you lack a lot of mix-up pressure due to your lack of an overhead option. You should also go for grabs near the corner and make sure you have an assist at the ready to extend those combos. Red's blaster moves are great keep-away projectiles that move slowly, controlling space, allowing you to shift the tide of the match into your favor. If you need to be defensive, be defensive. Don't do anything that will get you killed, like spamming 5H. If you do and they block the first one, you can cancel that into 4S to keep some pressure up, but be wary as they can still punish you if they expect it. And just like everything else in Grid, always use assists to keep opponents out, but don't just spam them mindlessly unless your goal is to get Happy Birthday. Before getting into his combos, we should lay the groundwork for where to start. Red's ground combos will tend to start from a 2L or a 5H. 2L leads directly into 5M, 2M, or 5H. A jump in like JH can be comboed into 5H or 2L. Most ground combos can lead directly into Red's 5H target combo. You can use it 3 times if you catch the opponent on the ground, and 2 times if caught in the air. Any 5H can lead directly into Red's launcher 2H, and if you land a grab, you can only combo out of it with a 6S. When comboing with Red, you should also try to move the opponents into the corner. Red's combo game is much stronger in the corner, simply due to how certain moves don't work consistently without it. With the groundwork established, I will now demonstrate some simple solo Red combos. Ground combos will start with 5H to show the maximum damage output, but know they can be started with 2L and converted into 5H. The only combos that will use an assist are my grab combos. Keep in mind that the timing for said assists may differ depending on what assists you use, i.e. a Draken assist would be used after the third 6S, while dogs would be used after the second. All notations will be shown here. Let's get started. Feel free to experiment on how to implement your assists into your combo. Here's how I implement mine. And finally, Red's best and most rewarding combo is Blaster Loops. These are incredibly difficult to learn, which is why I'm only going over them very briefly. They build lots of meter and can be looped around 7 to 8 times. All of the combos demonstrated operate under the assumption you have meter, but that definitely won't be the case at all times. Most of these combos build a little more than 1 bar anyway, aside from Blaster Loops. This is why a key move in Red's arsenal is to reset. While resetting is a universal skill shared by the entire Grid cast, I felt like it was important that it got its own section in this video because of how important it is to Red's game plan. The way resetting works in this game is when you 5L a mid-air opponent, it spins them out and they are invincible until they land. When they land, you have a plethora of options to throw out and your opponent has to guess which you are going to do. If they guess wrong, they're going to eat another combo. Red lacks the kill power necessary to touch a death in one interaction, and must reset in order to finish off opponents. After resetting, when the opponent hits the floor, you have a few options to choose from. The most obvious option is to go for a low. Red's 2L is insanely quick and can lead into some strong combos. This makes it a good option to choose. You can also dash underneath the opponent as soon as you 5L to not only mix them up with a low, but cross them up by dashing behind them. This is especially dangerous at the edge, as an opponent might not even know which side you are on until it is too late. While 2L is strong, lows tend to be the most obvious reset, and therefore many people are blocking low when they are reset. Fortunately, Red has another strong option in his grab. With an assist, Red can turn a puny grab into 6S into a full combo leading to death after reset. This can be a bit more rewarding than going for a low, as it is less expected than a low at mid to high levels of play. Although its strength is lowered if you are dash only Red, you can still super out of it and can still be quite dangerous if you have Zordon. If you are feeling really ballsy, you can go for a JH and attempt to hit them with an overhead. This isn't impossible to land, and it can definitely work, but due to how slow it is, it tends to not be worth it most of the time. Other characters can reset into overheads due to having access to a quick overhead, but Red does not have that luxury at all. This may seem crazy, but resetting is actually Red's only good use for his 5S, the Parry. Now I know what you're thinking, Parry, but it's so slow and punishable. This is true, but with a reset and a tag, it strikes fear into anyone who sees it. When you reset, immediately 5S and tag into a different character. Your opponent won't attack you due to seeing Red's Parry in action. If they hit him, they're going to be embarrassed for the rest of their life. While they're paralyzed, you have free reign to walk up and grab them, giving you a free combo. Here is a ranked game where I play Red for 99% of the match, aside from the round start. Red does not have the best round start options, and you will benefit from his assist, so you probably shouldn't put him in the front. Here, after engaging the dog, I read the Daishi tag out and block accordingly. After push blocking his target combo, the Daishi cancels his 5S, likely due to being push blocked, which gets him hit by my 5H. This lets me lead into my own combo, which I use to take him to the left side of the screen. I then hit him with a 5L to reset into grab. When this works, I time my dog assist accordingly and set up my combo to kill. Because Daishi is so low, I can go for an EX and use only 1 bar rather than super. I try to mess with my opponent by moving back and forth because I'm a dumbass, and go in for the 2L into 5H, which they block. I immediately cancel the 5H when it's blocked into 4S to avoid being punished. The opponent attempts to get me with a dog assist into tag, which does not work, leading to an awkward standoff that went on for way too long. Frightened, the opponent uses their Zord and calls the Goldar Stomp, but it's hit by my Eric assist. Not expecting him to jump, I go for a 5H jump in, which causes a ground bounce. I quickly 5L instead of finishing my combo to get a potentially stronger combo off of it. The reason I did it so early is to mix up my reset timing. A reset after a single aerial attack isn't something most would see coming. I quickly reset into grab for 2 reasons. because grabbing is a bit less predictable than a low, and because he still has Zord. If I hit him with a low, I would just be hit by his Zord, but since I grabbed, I am invincible during his Zord attack. Due to a lack of an Eric assist since I used him earlier, I have to use all 3 bars to secure this kill. After my last incoming was blocked, I use a grab instead of a low, which catches them off guard. I go for another grab reset because I can already tell they won't read any grab option, which leads to their inevitable demise. While this opponent did not give me much trouble getting in, this gameplay should give you a general idea on what you should go for when playing red. Bear in mind that when fighting a really strong opponent, you will have to mix up your reset game. I was confident in going for grab because I could tell my opponent would fall for it, but many experienced players usually will not. In this second game, I attempt to get a cross-up tag with red, which fails, forcing me to back off and retreat. I then spam my projectiles to keep the Ranger Slayer at bay, keeping her from pushing me, as well as countering any projectiles she throws with my incredible projectile durability. 6 seconds of projectile spam and an Eric assist later, and we finally catch the Ranger Slayer with an anti-air. Unfortunately, my jumping medium does not actually hit her, forcing me to use a grab to try to pick her up, which I do. I then use my assists accordingly and build up 2 bars so I can get the kill on the Ranger Slayer. This interaction highlights Red's struggle with getting in on opponents. You have to bide your time and be very careful using projectiles and assists to apply pressure to help you get in. In fact, if I had used more assists, I probably would have had an easier time getting in. I go for an aerial and incoming, just to see if it'll work, and it does, which leads into a very devastating combo. I then reset into grab, and use my assists accordingly. However, because I started with an aerial, I actually have enough damage to kill without using any meter, giving me 3 bars to use on his last character. After killing Daishi, I go for a cross-up Chuel and convert it into a combo, pushing them into the corner. Once they're in the corner, I go for a reset into Chuel, and then once that works, I string together a half-ass combo and then burn my 3 bars to kill the opponent, ending the game. At the end of the day, what is Red? He has a standard game plan, decent damaging combos that are easy to perform for beginners, a good toolkit containing most things in the game, and is great for learning them. Even with his flaws, I mean, he is the poster child of having no mix. He is a great rounded out character who is easy to learn, but has enough depth to keep you playing him. Even with his lack of power, his strong assist makes him a worthwhile place on any team. And there are way worse characters, let me tell you, but Red is a solid addition to any roster, and an easy enough character to learn. Give him a try and maybe you will see how great of a character this Ranger really is.